In the previous lesson, we have learned about collaborative innovation networks and the basic idea where we have the creator with the crazy idea who then recruits a little group of intrinsically motivated people, the COIN, the Collaborative Innovation Network, which is the heart of the swarm, which then recruits friends and family, which is another group, a few hundred normally, that work together with the COIN to turn the crazy idea, the first product, first prototype, into a first product. And they in turn recruit the collaborative interest network, the thousands of people that get the product over the tipping point and make it a disruptive innovation that changes the world. And so far, we have seen a lot of those new innovations. They are in the space of open source, the way how the internet was created. The Internet Engineering Task Force is a prime example with people like Vincent Cerf or Jonathan Postel that were organizing the IETF task force groups and members as COINs. Another example, we have already heard that, is how the World Wide Web was created by Tim Berners-Lee, Robert Caillot, and their friends. Another prime example, Linux, Linus Torvalds, who up to today is the queen bee, the main person behind Linux. It was a COIN, one of the most pure that one might think of. It's even more amazing than the web in a sense. It's, for some reason, it was in the same year, 1991, that Linux was born. It was Linus in his bedroom or kitchen in Helsinki sending an email to the rest of the world. I just created a little system. It's nothing special. Feel free to take it, to change it, but please, if you make any changes, send them back to me for integration and for sharing them with the rest of the world. And this sharing with the rest of the world, that is the key. And up to today, Linux has blossomed and is one of the key alternatives to Windows and the Mac and the most popular web operating system. Another great example is Lego Mindstorms, an invention of the MIT Media Lab, which is basically programmable Lego bricks. And the day they came out, they already got hacked. And the software was modified by hackers, and Lego pondered for a month what to do, but then either they could sue them or they could embrace them. They decided to embrace them, and that worked beautifully for Lego because they got their free developers force and it was working with Lego for free. Those hackers, they even pay their own airfare to Denmark once a year to share their latest ideas with Lego. Another great example, Google, Facebook, actually any startup works like a COIN. You have Larry Page, Sergey Brin, you have Bill Gates, you have Mark Zuckerberg, and they have a crazy idea and they get a little group of like-minded people, and in the beginning it's all about the product, and if it's about money too early, it will never succeed. But it's not just startups, it's also writing books. For example, the Twilight Saga by Stephanie Meyer. That's written very much by the swarm, because when she was writing her vampire stories, she was exposing them on her website, on her blog, and was inviting her readers to share their ideas, and then she incorporated the best ideas into the plot for her new novels. Another example is sports like mountain biking and snowboarding, where innovation very much comes from the users and is then integrated by the sports manufacturers. So the big question now is, what's the difference? What sets Jimmy Wales of Wikipedia, Linus Torvalds from Linux, Tim Berners-Lee, the creator of the web, apart from the rest? And what we see here, the Waggle Dance of the bees. that's well understood for the bees. It looks chaotic from the outside. It wasn't until it was deciphered by, I think, Mr. Frisch, Nobel Prize winning biologists in Munich, and since then we understand the Waggle Dance, where a bee tells others where the honey is. And the question now is, what's the Waggle Dance of Tim Berners-Lee, of Linus Torvalds, of Jimmy Wales? And what we are using here for the bees, we look at their face-to-face, their body interaction. For humans, we look at communication archives, we look at email, Facebook, but also phone logs or face-to-face interaction measured with sociometric badges. And what we found is that it's really 3 criteria that set those most creative people apart. The first one, degree of connectivity, and that's in the case of Tim Berners-Lee. He left CERN behind, came to MIT, started networking with people like David Clark, the head of the research group. He also got himself acquainted with Michael Tortouzos, the director of the Lab for Computer Science, who is a regular participant at the Davos, who was a regular participant at the World Economic Forum in Davos. And connecting to those people, that's the first thing that you need. Whether it's sending out emails with like Linus Torvalds or meeting face to face, those most creative people, they are different in 2 areas, in the number of friends and the importance of friends. And it's called degree centrality and betweenness centrality. And we will learn more about those 2 metrics in other modules of this class. So how you are connected, that's the first thing that sets one apart. Now, in today's Facebook and LinkedIn age, amassing a large number of friends is easy. The question is, what's the value of those friends? And one way of figuring out what's the value of those friends is by looking at how quickly they respond. I call that degree of interactivity. I still remember in 1991 when Tim came to MIT, or 92, I was amazed how quickly he was responding to his emails. At that time, email was still in its very early stages, and once one got an email, people were pondering for a week what to respond, and then they were sending it off, but not Tim. He was always responding very quickly. And you can think of that even today. If Peter sends an email to Bill Gates, who cares? Everybody can send an email at billgates@microsoft.com, but if Bill Gates would answer Peter 30 seconds later, Peter would be very important. Unfortunately, that doesn't not happening, but the speed with which an important person answers an email is a good proxy, a good approximation of how much that person respects the sender. It also goes the other way around. If you are gone from your email, which in the age of smartphones is probably rarely happening, but in case it happens, if you are gone from your email and you come back and you have your inbox overflowing, just watch yourself. Which is the emails that you pick first? It's from your boss, it's from the team members that you value most, it's from your significant others. So the speed with whom you respond to others, that's what my colleague Sandy Pentland calls an honest signal. It means that you appreciate the other person most. Either way, how quickly you respond and how quickly others respond to you, that's one proxy. And the third proxy, degree of sharing, and that's again different ways of looking at this. One way is the way of how the web was created, where all the development of the web could be looked at and observed and watched on the web, because Tim was sharing his ideas on the first web server and everybody could read that he was just looking at systems called CyberMap, or that he was interacting with such and such people, and it was there for everybody to share. The same thing for Linus Torvalds. When he was sending out his email, I just created a little system. He shared the source code with everybody. And so sharing helps. And the less money one has, the more sharing they need to be. But we can also look at the language that people use. The more a group starts developing their own vocabulary, using the same shared language, the better. The more they are a cohesive team. And this works along different dimensions. For example, we can look at how positive or negative people are. It turns out that overly positive is not good. Being positive and supportive is good. But if you are too positive, you are just glossing over the things which can be improved. And so honest language, where you have both positive and negative terms, is much better. And then you can also look at new made up words. You can, for example, compare them against something which in the days before Google Ngrams was called the British National Corpus, BNC, which is basically all the words in all classic English literature and their distribution, their histograms, and then look how they, in your own emails or text or website or tweets, deviate from that BNZ. Or you can just take other standard word distributions. You can calibrate your system. You take the words that are in an organizational email archive, and then you check how the vocabulary of a small group deviates from those words. So either way, what Tim Berners-Lee, Linus Torvalds, Jimmy Wales distinguishes from the rest is those most effective communicators, innovators. They have high degree of connectivity, they have a high degree of interactivity, and they share what they are doing. So in our work, we have developed a framework that looks at those three criteria. It calculates the networking structure. What you see here is a small network from project we did with a German bank where employees were wearing symmetric badges. This little star network is not particularly creative. This coin network in the upper right where everybody communicates with everybody, so each dot is a person. We have numbered them for privacy, so we have number 77 talking to number 49, for example. And the closer they are together, the more they communicate, and what we want is the people that communicate as coins and not as stars, or to take my favorite sentence, don't be a star, be a galaxy. So those three dimensions, we have distilled them into our Condor software. More about the Condor software in other modules. For now, let's just look at those 6 honest signals and how they work. So the first 2 have to do with structure, and they are about central and decentralized leaders, and they are about how much you share contribution, meaning how much somebody sends or receives information, and whether among team members there is a balance, or whether we have somebody who is the main contributor, the producer of information, and the others are just the consumers. The second dimension is the temporal dimension, and there we measure a very important metric which we call rotating leadership. So while for innovation teams central leaders are important, they should change over time. They shouldn't be always the same. The other temporal metric is how quickly somebody responds. The faster the better, but it's not just taking your computer or your smartphone to bed and always answering in 1 second, but it's more like a bursty communication where you play ping pong. Email ping pong, idea ping pong, Twitter ping pong, just sending ideas back and forth in a bursty communication behavior, and then following with periods of calm and quiet. The third metric has to do with content. It measures on the one hand what we call the honest sentiment, that means the standard deviation of positivity and negativity. And on the other hand, it measures how innovative my language is and how much others, after I have introduced a new word, start using them. Now let's look in more detail at each of those metrics.